Hello, Goffstown. My name is Jim Craig, and I'm your host for this week's edition of Goffstown Today, the local public affairs program brought to you by the Goffstown Democratic Committee. You know, it takes a lot to run a town, and with our busy lives, we don't often think about all the things that go into making Goffstown run as well as it does. We all know pretty much what police and fire do, but there are other town departments that are integral in making the town function smoothly. And today we're going to talk about the Goffstown Public Works Department. To do that, we have the director, Adam Jacobs. I've gotten to know and watch Adam for the last few months. And at the risk of giving him a swelled head, I can tell you that I think Goffstown is really lucky to have him. So welcome, Adam, and thank you for coming on the show. And,
Thanks, Jim.
And I think the best way that we can use our time here is, I think some people have a general idea of what goes on. They know what the transfer station is and things like that. But if you would, let's just tell everyone what you're responsible for and what you do in the town, the Public Works Department.
Sure. Thank you. So Public Works, as everybody probably knows, our primary responsibility are the roads and streets in town, both summer and winter maintenance, construction of roads and repairs, and of course, plowing snow in the winter. That's usually what people think when they think Public Works. We've also got a couple other divisions to make that all come together and take care of the rest of the town. So we manage all the town's solid waste, so our curbside trash and recycling, as well as managing the transfer station on Elm Street for folks that have items that can't be picked up curbside or commercial haulers that bring material here. We accept all that. We also have fleet maintenance responsibilities for the town, both for the DPW fleet, but also police and fire and parks and rec, even administration with the pool car. So we've got all that responsibility, as well as cemetery maintenance here in town. We maintain 3 town cemeteries, and that includes burials. And we round that out with administration and engineering, which helps make sure the complaints and calls come into and get dispatched to the right division, but also the engineering staff supports our local planning board with any site plan and subdivision applications, both for plan review and also inspections during construction. And engineering also provides us with construction plans for our in-house projects. So we do a lot of our own road building here in town as the general contractor, which is unlike a lot of smaller towns and even the cities. We do it in-house, so our engineering staff provides plans for construction, so we can proceed through and hopefully have an uneventful construction period on our projects. So they take care of that. One final thing is stormwater, water quality. Our engineering staff and highway staff maintain the town's drainage systems, but that's in compliance with the Clean Water Act requirements. And we're a MS4, which is a municipal separate storm sewer system, which means our sanitary sewer and our storm sewers have to be separate to maintain water quality levels in town, but also minimize the amount of water that goes into the sewage treatment plant in Manchester. We're separated, those two systems, but we're required to sample outfalls from the road drainage to make sure that oils, fertilizer loading, other contaminants don't get into our local surface water to both impact the water supply, but also the aquatic species that live there too. So a little bit of everything, soup to nuts, and then we're also the town's labor force when it comes to things like elections and setting up voting booths and moving town hall equipment or stuff, things like that. So we've got the manpower and the equipment to do it, so we get called and pulled in a lot of different directions.
That's amazing. You said so much there that it's almost like can't even fathom it. But how long have you been doing what you're doing? How long have you worked for?
So I've worked for the town of Goffstown. I was first hired as public works director in 2015. I worked here for a couple of years in the department, and then I came to town hall for a couple of years as town administrator, and went to private business for a year. And then when Megan Terrio, who had taken over for me at Public Works, moved north to another community, the select board asked me to come back as an interim consultant for a bit, and then remembered how much I enjoyed Public Works and asked if they'd have me back, I'd put my name in the hat for the job full time again, and they were kind enough to see me back. So I've boomeranged back to DPW. I've been here the last year and a half, and it's been great. I'm looking forward to years ahead, but really enjoying myself back in DPW.
I think you do a good job. How many people, how many employees are for work for you?
Let's see, we've got 24 full-time employees at DPW, and then we've got a few internship and seasonal positions over the summer that we try to get seasonal highway and cemetery staff to help out there. It's been a little tricky lately, the last couple of years, but we do have 2 engineering interns as well that help during the summer, some of our road and water quality inspections. So they take care of a lot of that too. So usually it's college students for that.
So you had, I think you were saying you had 24, about, that seemed like an awful small amount of people to do all the work that you described. Do you have a lot of specialists deal with water issues? And it's almost like you need chemists and things like that.
We've got, so the 24 is our labor force. We do have in the admin engineering a few more, but we take a lot of pride in being self-taught in a lot of areas. So some of the engineering staff is, from the design perspective and computer-aided design, self-taught. We do we sample the water in-house between our full-time staff and our interns, but a lot of those tests are sent to a state lab or another lab for the analysis. We do a few of the analysis locally, though, that we can. Trying to do more all the time and maintain a nice high level of expertise, and certainly the less we have to pay for, the better. So we do what we can, but it's hard to run a full-time lab without a lot of staff, and there's cleanliness requirements and all that. So from the water quality perspective, a lot of it that we can't test in the field, we send off to a lab.
Okay, let's try to break it down a little bit. I'm originally from Manchester, so I don't know much about transfer stations. We don't, garbage is picked up and that's the end of it. But since I've moved out here, I've been to the transfer station a bunch of times, and it's just it's almost like a little city in there. If you just talk about that, what goes on out there, and some of the issues, is it big enough to handle what we have, all those kind of things.
Sure.
And that's where the administrative office is as well, right?
That's correct. Yep. Our headquarters is right in the backside of the transfer station up on the hill. So at 404 Elm Street, we have a transfer station, which means we don't have a formal landfill or dump, as some might refer to it in town anymore. We have a closed capped landfill in Pinardville off Laurier Street that some might recognize as the Surratt Fields complex down there, football field and soccer and lacrosse. So we have a capped landfill, which we maintain to make sure that it's not, contaminating the groundwater, the air quality around it. But the bulk of our work is not there anymore. It's at the transfer station. So we take material in both from our curbside collection trucks. We have automated curbside recycling and trash that run 4 days a week. And we also take, folks that come right to the transfer station across the scales, either for, larger demolition, yard debris, brush, some wood, metals, electronics, furniture, stuff that's too big for the curbside trucks or not the right material for the curbside. And we kind of separate those waste streams, and then we process them here for, wherever they're going to live the rest of their lives. So we have vendors that come and pick up our household hazardous waste. Our metals get delivered to a recycling vendor there. Our recycling gets, we self-haul. So we bring our recycling, gets packed into a live floor trailer, which has a movable floor, and it gets packed in. And once it's full, we haul that with a tractor trailer to Casella in Charlestown, Mass. And then our solid waste, which is the bulk of what's brought to the transfer station, actually goes, if you want to bring up slide 1, GTV, goes up to the North Country landfill in Bethlehem, New Hampshire, which is perfect view of the White Mountains and Mount Washington up there, pristine, but they're running out of space. And if you look at slide 2 that I provided, that's got some information on it about how much time is actually left. Right now, it's sort of a bit of a crunch as a state. We bring in a lot of material from Massachusetts, primarily. Interstate commerce laws prevent public landfills from denying trucking from other states. So a lot of what's actually thrown away and landfilled in New Hampshire is from Massachusetts. But right now we're running out. We've only got 3 active landfills in the state, and they're all running out of time. One is scheduled to be full in 2025 unless there's some expansion, another in 2026, and then the largest remaining would be full in 2034 unless there's any expansion. So ongoing as we speak, there's efforts to expand some of these, and they're meeting some pretty significant pushback from the locals, as you might imagine, in those areas about not wanting something in their backyard to be expanded, especially when you start talking about the tourist country in the North Country, and the environmental impacts of that. So we're coming to a head pretty soon. We're under a long-term contract right now to dispose of our trash in Bethlehem, but our contract is going to expire right about the same time they're running out of space. So we're going to be forced to make some decisions unless they can expand about what we're going to do and how we're going to dispose of our waste. There's only a couple of incinerators in the state. One is waste to energy, and one is a non-recovery, which just means they burn it to reduce the mass of it. So waste to energy seems like it might be a good opportunity for the future, but right now those plants are at capacity, so they can't accept any new customers. They have enough to keep going around the clock already. So unless some new plants are built, we're kind of at a dead end there too. So really what the name of the game for us, at least over the next few years, ought to be, and as a state certainly is, reducing the waste stream. One of the next recycling, we've kind of leveled out our recycling rate in town. About 25 to 30% of our waste stream ends up recycled. Which is pretty common across the industry. But one of the next big things that some states have made some good progress on, New Hampshire has not yet, is composting. Some states have mandatory food waste must be separated from the rest of the waste stream and composted. New Hampshire probably will be there before too long as part of this landfill expansion discussion. So expect to see that. We've started a pilot program this year with a few households to see what their experience would be like with composting and how that changes their behaviors and what kind of success they might have. But honestly, one of the things that runs into trouble with us is with curbside trash and recycling. It makes composting a little tougher because, unless we offer curbside composting, not every house in Goffstown has a place to dispose of compost or actually process it. So got a few things to kind of look at as we go forward. I'm curious to see, we're going to send out some surveys soon about our composting pilot to see what the experience was and how likely it would be to expand and do on scale townwide. So that's kind of where things go right now. The recycling wise, the hot button issue a couple of years ago, China as a country normally processed most of the world's recycling and purchased it. We used to get a revenue from our recycling, big bales of it, mixed single, we do single stream here in town. So it's everything paper, plastic, cans. China decided they didn't want to be the bearer of all the world's contamination. So they set pretty strict rules on contamination levels, which most countries can't meet. So basically shut off the spigot on all recycling material being sent there. And that threw the whole industry into a loop. And if GTV pulls up slide number 3, I'm sorry, I'll skip right over slide number 3. That shows us our waste stream breakdown here in town. But slide number 4 kind of shows what happened to the recycling market in 2017 when China Soared was the name of the program. When it was announced that they were going to reduce the amount of contamination they'd allow, our recycling rate, our recycling revenue, I should say, disappeared. And all of a sudden, instead of being paid for our recycling materials, we were now paying across the scale. And it flipped from about a $15 to $20 revenue per ton to very quickly $30 to $40 a ton. And it hovered around $60 to $70 a ton for a couple of years. As late as last year, I was worried that $70 a ton might not be enough in the budget based on the way things were looking. But interestingly enough, the pandemic last year had a positive impact on recyclable commodity market. So all of a sudden, as Amazon boxes piled up on everybody's doorstep, the price of cardboard on the market went through the roof. So suddenly our mixed paper recycling bales were now worth something again. So one silver lining is that we're not paying as much per ton. So it's been dropping pretty drastically since last year when it was close to $70 a ton. Right now, this month, we're actually it was cut in half again. We're now only paying $13 a ton. So these wild swings for material that we're pushing about 2,000 to 2,500 tons of recyclables through town every year, and for that to swing, $60, $60 a ton, pretty significant change for the town. So right now times are good on the recycling market, and hopefully this kind of forces some good habits while times are good to get maybe more recycling processing plants in the States. And that will all factor in with how much gets landfilled as well. So a lot of things happening on all fronts on the solid waste end.
So given all that, does the town make any money recycling, or is it?
We definitely operate at a deficit. So the taxpayers' dollars do not get offset by the money that we bring in. But it certainly helps to reduce the amount that the town pays. Right now, unfortunately, with the way things are, if we wanted as a community to start a curbside recycling and trash pickup program, it would be hard to sell that idea because you're not making any money on the recycling. When it made sense, we would make that extra money, and the more you could recycle, the better. Now where we're paying for both commodities, it doesn't make sense. So we got in at a good time as a town for that curbside, which is a great benefit for folks. The only other program that really brings in much money, metals, the amount of money that we can get from the metal processors, but that comes and goes with the commodity market, of course. We also charge out-of-towners and anybody that brings in large quantities of household hazardous waste. We do try to get that out of the waste stream. So we offer one of the state's only year-round hazardous waste collection sites by appointment. But what we charge the out-of-towners is just a break-even point, and we, it's a loss leader for local residents, who either don't pay or they pay a minimum amount. It doesn't quite offset how much it costs to actually dispose of that. So we don't really make any money, but we do put a dent in the overall cost of the town.
I just have it's like almost a personal question. I know in Manchester they do, but are you able to pick up large items like, say, a couch or something like that? I think they have one dump truck or two in Manchester that does that. I don't think we do that, but
we don't offer large item pickup or brush. Sometimes I think Manchester might offer once or twice a year yard waste. Maybe it's just in the fall, probably yard waste pickup. We do not offer that. Once in a great while, if there's a big FEMA level event and there's a lot of tree debris, we might bend a little bit on that if we're out in the neighborhoods picking up street debris. But we don't offer that now. And part of that too is because of the volume of people. I presume in Manchester is so great that if they had every single person coming to the transfer station with a couch, it might be tricky. They never get out of there. So I bet there's some scale issues that they deal with that we don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about it. I just was curious. Before we leave the transfer station, the sports field next door. What's the current status? The new fields.
We at DPW, kind of a joint project. It's really a Parks and Recreation project, but we helped them with the design and the permitting since it was such a big site. There's alteration of terrain permit that has to happen. We helped them with the design of that, and then the construction end as far as helping with inspections and making sure the contractors did what they needed to do for the project. There's a multi-field complex that is, I guess, in it's post-construction for the first phase of it. So right now the fields have been, the first large rectangular field area has been created. There's some stormwater ponds to keep all the site runoff contained, but also to provide water for irrigation as a backup source. And right now I think it's the primary water source since the ponds have been filled lately, thanks to Mother Nature. So the athletic field right next to the transfer station entrance, it's 2 driveways down. There's an access road and a big parking area, and the athletic fields have been seeded, and the grass is coming in great. Parks and Rec wanted to give it a season for the grass to really establish before they put any cleats on it, but they should be playing very soon. I think the Parks and Rec director was even thinking about a fall, maybe easing in, but certainly next year, if not this fall, there'll be folks on that. So it's a pretty nice parking area, pretty great athletic fields, irrigated and drainage and all the rest. And their future.
How many fields gonna fit down there?
I think right now they can get 3 rectangular fields in what in the site they've done. It kind of depends what sport and what age group when they lay it out. There are some plans for a field house and concession stand type things down the road for the next phase, where they probably will include a diamond, a baseball diamond as well. So I think the future phases, they need to really talk to the school and see if the school has any need. Right now, it doesn't look like they do. So it's mainly from the recreation end, but great resource for the town. Those will be online pretty soon. On the town website, if you go to goffstown.com, there's a row of bullets, and one of the bullets, buttons, I should say, right in the middle of the screen says road projects, but it's a little bit of a misnomer. If you click on road projects, all of our active projects are there, and one of them is the Barnard Athletic Field, Parks and Rec Athletic Field project. Click on that, there's all sorts of things, plans, pictures from construction, little narratives from along the way. So great timeline. Engineering staff put that together. So I encourage everybody to check that out under our road projects button on the town website. Other things that are on there are current road projects, but also.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the road project? How do you figure out what, I mean, there's so many roads and so many I don't know how many, but so many things need, all the roads need maintenance, and how do you keep up, and how do you know which ones to do, and what's coming up, and if people want to know, when their roads are going to get fixed, where do they go to see all that stuff? Just,
Sure.
I think that's a big part of what you do, and
it is. We've got right now, thanks to some great support at the select board, budget committee, and voter level. We've got a pretty healthy road plan. We've been able to build that over several years up to a level. It was funded pretty well before the last recession, and then of course budgets kind of took a tumble and we fell behind. But right now we've got a pretty healthy road budget. It's about $2.2 million a year. And that covers everything from a small drainage project to an overlay of a road maybe that was rebuilt 10 years ago and is due for a resurfacing to keep it good. Keeping your good roads good is very critical. All the way up to a full rebuild and drainage project, and we reclaim the existing asphalt and it creates a nice road base, and then we can pave over that. So kind of soup to nuts. For that budget annually. We try to have a mix of commuter roads or main roads that serve a majority of the town on a day-to-day basis with the neighborhood streets. And historically, the main roads are so big that unless you had a big budget, it was hard to tackle them all. So we've been chipping away at those for well over 10 years as a department. But some of the neighborhood streets tend to get ignored as well as time goes on. There's just so many of them. So particularly in Pinardville, there's so many streets and so many houses for each street that a project in Pinardville might take 2 or 3 times longer than a project in the mountain area, for example, where you might only have a few houses in a whole quarter mile. In Pinardville, in a quarter mile, you could hit 50, 60, 70 houses. So, and a lot of utilities, of course, as well, gas and sewer, which don't exist, and even water in a lot of cases in other parts of town. So definitely areas in Pinardville where somebody was born and maybe even died before their street was paved that we're catching up on. Our goal is to try to provide in the 20 to 25 year return cycle range instead of 50 to 60 years between paving projects. So we've got a current year's road plan. We've got a longer range road plan, which up until recently, it gets affected by changing budgets. Right now, we've settled into the town supported with a couple of articles a few years in a row that have built up our budget and now get included in the regular and the default budget scenarios. So now that we've got that, one of the things we're working on this year is to build back out that 10-year road plan, so you can at least look and say, am I on here? And can I expect my road in the next 2 to 3 years, or can I expect it in 6 to 7, or was it just done and it's not even on the 10-year road plan? It might be further out. it's not an exact science. We try to mix and match areas in town. So you try to, of course, if roads are totally falling apart and we're out there patching potholes, or when the plows come through, if they peel off the pavement, it's so deteriorated. We need to address those, of course, in the shorter range. But we try to mix and match the bigger roads, the smaller roads, the northeast, south and west parts in town. Build in some sidewalk work. We try to improve pedestrian mobility as we can. It's good for business, good for residents, good for disabled folks as you meet ADA requirements. Work with other utilities and their plans. So if gas is trying to get into a certain neighborhood in Pinardville, we try to work with them early. So it makes sense. We only tear up the road once. If sewer has a 40-year-old sewer main, we try to coordinate with them. Manchester Waterworks, Goffstown, and Grassmere Village precincts. So it's kind of a moving target. You try to get everybody's thoughts aligned. So all the more reason for us as the owner of the streets in town to get a nice long-range road plan where the utilities can sort of plan, so it's not a surprise to them when you say, oh, by the way, we're tearing into this street next year. That doesn't give them a whole lot of time to react and build their own plans and budget. So that's a definite goal for the year. Now that we've got an established budget level, we know how much we can chip off both in budget and time of year, and kind of what that means for the next few years worth of road. So also on the town website under road projects, people can see the current year's list. And then hopefully in the next few months, you'll start to see longer range plans as the select board gets them and gets them approved.
It's I know people hate to pay taxes, including me, but it's nice to know that there's a lot of thought and a lot of planning and things that everybody. I don't think anybody objects to paying money for roads and those kind of things, and in trash and everything. And so it's nice to know that it's done. It's being done well, and that you guys will look, spending money where it needs to go, and trying to conserve where you can. And so that's good. I mean, that's what town administration is for. And Goffstown, I'm really impressed with how well it runs. Everybody like less taxes, but I think everybody agrees that we need to pay for those kind of things. And it's good to have good people taking care of that stuff. So we're running out of time. Any announcements or anything that you want to put out there before we close it down?
About the only couple of things I might plug real quickly are we've got a roundabout project at the Wallace Road roundabout coming up soon. That's to help ease truck turning movements there. It was a little undersized to begin with based on the constraints of the real estate that they had to work with when they first built it. It's certainly a heck of a lot safer than it was when it was a single stop intersection. A lot of accidents there and potentially dangerous accidents. So it's a lot safer now, but big trucks have a hard time making the full sweep around U-turn if they're heading eastbound out of Manchester and they want to turn around and go back towards that way. But also turns up Wallace Road can be tricky for the big trucks. So based on some studies we've done and brought to the board requested we do them and make some improvements there this year. So we're working on that. So there'll be some.
Oh, that hasn't started yet, has it?
Mainly on the planning end. We've got a couple contractors that need to come in for some curbing adjustments, and that's kind of the next phase. We've got to clean out some of the center island and prep for them, and then as soon as they're ready, we'll be in. So the goal is to get that mostly, if not all, done before school starts back up here and the buses start rolling. So we've got that coming. And the other project in town, which probably catches a few eyes, is in addition to a few housing projects towards the village that DPW is only involved with from an engineering perspective from inspections. But another big project is another sports project, the Sports Dome, which is out on the Goffstown back road just by the town line of Manchester, with a new gas station and Dunkin' Donuts went in a few years ago. Tower Lane, that dome is going to start work probably next month, next few weeks. It'll be very similar to a brand new sports dome that was built in Hooksett last year and open for business. So if folks have been to that facility, it'd be very similar. So that's a privately owned and privately constructed project, but they probably will be serving Goffstown residents with our local sports teams. Some of the travel teams may practice there, and certainly from out of town. So another nice project to kind of help out the area and the load for all year round athletic field. So that's coming up too. So those are probably the two biggest ticket items in the next few weeks anyway.
So that's good to know. Is that roundabout project going to close down any of those streets?
So
That's pretty well traveled.
That is a heavily traveled road. We get about, I think 25,000 cars a day through that stretch. So we are going to encourage people to use Henry Bridge and Elm Street and Back Road as much as possible during the work, but our intention is for the project at least alternating one way. So there'll be some delays for sure, but we want to be able to keep that route open, and we certainly need to keep it open for emergency services. But it'll be a little bit of a mess for sure during the construction period.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, Adam. It's it's fascinating to me. It's just stuff I've never really thought about, and it's nice to. It's just it's just fascinating to me. And I hope other people enjoyed your presentation, and it's good. Hope things continue to go well. So, in closing, you can watch these programs here on GTV through the video page on our website, goffstowndems.com. by searching for the Goffstown Democrats YouTube channel or on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/GoffstownDems. Please like and share them widely, and thank you for watching.